All right. Should be topic number two. Should be topic number two says, is this self hate or good advice? Will this cause people to hate black Americans or is it overdue? This takes us actually to Reddit. Let me see. Yes, this takes us to Reddit. And let me see. This video was titled African American Man Gives His Friendly Advice to Africans Plan to Relocate to the US. So it's a short video. We'll watch it and then we'll discuss it.
Move to the U.S. America is not what you think it is. If you choose to get a black woman, you need to stick with a black woman that came from Africa, or you need to bring a woman from Africa here. Do not think that you're going to get the same godly treatment from the black woman that's raised here in America, the descendants of slaves, that you got on the African continent. You need to keep a tight community with the other Africans who moved over here. Because the black community that's here and was here for the past 400 years is divided. Nigga, we can't even go to a goddamn party without the fear of a nigga shooting it up. If you step on a nigga's shoes wrong, this nigga might steal off on you. He might kill you. It is not love in the black community in America like it is in Africa. Most of our kids are reading on a 5th and 6th grade reading level. They are losing their virginities early as shit. Early as elementary, middle, and most of them early high school. We don't believe in marriage. Our women have a 24% marriage rate. Our women have double-digit body counts by the time they getting out of high school. These are things you got to think about here. Another thing, when you get here, you got to work like your ass in captivity, so you better be ready. All you can think about is work, 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 get home, go to sleep, send your kids to school to get indoctrinated by the white man, and then work, 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 work again. These are just a couple things you got to think about when you come to America.
All right. You know, what's interesting about that advice is it sounds like the advice that black Americans say that foreign blacks receive from their people when they come to America. It's interesting. With that said, let me start with Black Steel this time. Black Steel, is this self hate or good advice? Will this cause people to hate black Americans or is it overdue?
I definitely think it's self hate. Um, he's just coming out with every possible generalization in the book, right? If you're that scared, then stay your ass home. Okay? If you're so scared to be around other black people because you're scared you might get into a fight because someone step on your shoes, stay home. Every comment he made was based off of some racist generalization, um, or some self-hating bullshit. Honestly, I go out all the time. You know, people ain't stepping on my shoes and fighting with me, and all the other stuff. Uh, as far as other things, other comments he said, that's totally up to him. Uh, if you're talking about black children and their inability to read or do good in school, that's a product of systemic racism in our society, and you're not really addressing that. But these type of black people, right? They don't see the good in themselves. They don't see the value and the benefit in their own people. So they're gonna sit up here and come up with all type of generalizations and insults possible. I don't think he's saying anything that is advice or anything. It's just true. In my opinion, it's just self hatred. Period. He just really just talking negative, and he really deep down, he probably believes the stereotypes. He probably believes everything that's said about black people. He probably needs to get out and interact more with other black people and be among the community, because yeah, you're gonna have some problems, but it just bothers me that these narratives are what we're talking about now. Oh, black people this, black people that. Like, we're just inherently messed up people. And I just don't agree with that. So no, I don't think that he's giving advice. He's speaking from his own uh, He's speaking from his own trauma, if I could say that much. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Um, with that said, Oni, you heard what Black Steel had to say. What say you to what you heard in that video?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I don't like in, well, I used to really dislike in America, which is it's really popular to have self hate. It's really popular to be negative on black people. In fact, I remember because like I just brought up the issue about the N word stuff, whatever. I was on I was on a social media platform, and I brought up some black guy was just giving out don't follow these red pill guys. These N words, N words, N words, N words, and and everybody was just praising it. Like, yeah, man, you tell them. I hope the young people will listen to this. It's like how much like we don't even realize in our casual conversation we're using a word associated with our enslavement. We're using a word that basically I want to say objectifies us. Just makes us into what they call a black object, and it's just normalized to to just disregard black people, and it's not even like we're the only people that use it, although that would still be bad, right? But I'm telling you, like, I could just be out. Well, back in America, I could just be out, and you could have no black people in sight, and people are just like, yo, that N word did this, and man, my N word, and you're just like, like, what did we do? But yeah, so as far as this guy is concerned, I mean, I feel like a lot of what he's saying um, has a little bit of validity, but I also think everybody's going to say these things, regardless, and not just about America, but I mean, like, you'll have, like, I could find people in Tanzania, like, if you speak the language, right? They're talking bad about the women there, or they're talking bad about the men there. You know, some of the women will say, "Hey, I think a lot of these men are, funny." You know what I mean? I think people, particularly of let's say unhappy people will talk bad about women and men. They will do that. Now, that's not to say that this experience is invalid, and I think that a lot of people are going to have bad experiences with women and men. But I can say that, for instance, when I was in America, now granted, a lot of women I did have the best relationships with were they were Caribbean, right? But I think that was more of a coincidence, from the fact that I was in New York City, where it's like most people are Caribbean. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but like even so, it's like yeah. I think I think overall this is self hate, but and I also see how it parallels what allegedly black people are being told before they come to this country or come to America. Um, but I also do think that when you have too much self hate, it does drive people into hating you. It's like it's the unintended consequences where you tell people, hey, you got to stay away from black people on Fourth Street. You got to stay away from black people on Fifth Street. You got to stay away from black people in the Sixth District, and whatever. When you tell them that much so often, they say to themselves, well, I'm not keeping track to all. I'm just going to stay away from all. You know, and I think that that's something that we tend to overlook. Now, I mean, yeah. So I mean, maybe he had good intentions, but it's really bad to speak ill of your own people and your own women. Like it's really not as good a quality as you might think. That's all.
Appreciate that, Oni. In the chat, Trigavi262 plus said, I try to be clear that the advantage continental Africans have is that there are barely white people or no white people. Black proximity is strong, but I can never skip the issues we have on the continent. He goes on to say, you could also argue that a lot of our cultural traditions are much more preserved on the continent, but it doesn't erase the erosion process. But still, black proximity is such an advantage. D. Webb says a lot of the stuff he mentioned is class issues. You will experience promiscuity, crime, etc., with any poverty stricken population. He's just yapping. I like that. He goes on to say, Webb does, I'd say the bigger issue is toxic feminism and how propagandized American women are. I thought that was a good quote to ask a follow up. What are you guys' thoughts what Webb just said in those last two statements? I'll start with Black Steel.
I think he brings up a good point. We never talk about um, how feminism and really the desire to be white women has affected black people in this country. A lot of the aspirational black desires that black women have are predicated on them being rich, middle class white women. Um, and I think that in a way it views black men as the enemy. And we see that especially in the dating discourse, where many black women and black men are almost competing with one another. And I think that we really don't understand the feminist movement from its very inception was an integrationist movement. It was meant to integrate white women into the realms of power, right? So when a woman is in charge, when a white woman or when a woman soldier murders a colonized person, this is feminism, right? If you can put women in positions of authority, that way they can share in the spoils of empire. That was the very goal of feminism from its inception. Um, and we've lost track of that. But many of the leading feminists from the very beginning were racist. You know, we often talk about Susan B. Anthony and how she fell out with Frederick Douglass, how he supported her initially, but they fell out because black men got the vote before white women did. This was an issue for her. Um, but overall, this is just I think that they don't really touch on that too much. We don't really ever examine that. And Trigger Happy says something else about being counterinsurgency. It's no coincidence that Gloria Steinem, one of the leaders of second wave feminism, was an admitted CIA agent, and then the conversation and the discourse went from being black men and black women united against the white power structure to now they're talking about how dealing with the oppression of black men's misogyny, black men as oppressors. The conversation completely changed. This is no doubt the work of a skilled propagandist. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Yeah. Webb's statement is an interesting one about toxic feminism. No one really talks about it. I'll be interested to hear what Oni has to say about how feminism, toxic feminism, and propagandize American women, and how feminism is a counterinsurgency. Let me hear what Oni has to say about it. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, what Black Steel just finished with kind of goes back to the first conversation about state propaganda. And the reality is that, you know, if we don't know the content of a cartoon, we can't, we can't say, because like at this point in time, you know, America will give you cartoons with, women, let's say like women, or let's say boys who are women who are boys, or boys who are women, whatever, just women on top of women or what have you. In fact, I was like, I can't even watch Netflix. I mean, I have it, and I watch a few programs, but I'm telling you, like I can't watch Netflix. Like I was trying to watch it on the bus, and I had to start hiding it because like all of a sudden, I'm watching a cartoon and all of a sudden two women are like making out, and it's just like, what am I watching? Like, why am I don't want to see, that's I don't want to see that. But anyway, my point is this though. Uh, well, oh, sorry, about the feminism thing. Yeah, that's another thing that we don't really talk about enough, and that is one, the huge economic disparity in America, even in the black community, right? and two, the reality that the black community, and sorry, I don't mean to say black community, I mean like the black community in America, right? But the reality that the blacks in America technically have, let's say, the highest income of black people on the planet, right? Um, or generally speaking, right? Now, obviously, there are much richer people on the continent of Africa, but not usually, not normally. That's also a huge economic disparity in Africa as well. But when it comes to what the guy was arguing about, which is like a traditional woman and sort of like so forth, right? A traditional woman kind of exists in a huge economic disparity, um, or it's a matter of let's pretty much say like a non-working woman, which is not something that's really typical in the West, right? A lot of the women are taught to work and aspire to work and be independent in of themselves, right? And that is not going to necessarily align with the quote unquote values of a traditional woman, right? And by traditional we mean like a woman who's not necessarily going to be a woman with a different sort of interdependence, right? And that's kind of the crux of like that's kind of the underlying um, issue in the conversation about the quality of women in one country versus the quality of women in another country, right? And so that's a yeah. I know you guys. You probably. I don't know if you guys can hear this guy in the background, but he's all right. So yeah, I think not just even. I think like what D Web said about the class issue. Like realistically, you have this almost like you have it such that you'll have a lot of well-to-do black women in the country, or you even have a lot of I'll put it this way: how white people were talking about. They were like, "Hey, 4 million people, 4 million women are on OnlyFans, right?" And then somebody else pointed out, "Yeah, and 80 million men are supporting OnlyFans, right? Are purchasing OnlyFans, whatever they do on OnlyFans. I don't know, but the reality is that you have people looking for economic opportunity in the sexual sphere, and they have that in America. I mean, sorry, in Africa, but they have it like kind of on blast, public, embraced in America, right? And in so much as that's like a thing where it's like, hey, sex has monetary value for women, right? You already kind of like the wholesomeness of your relationships are already sabotaged, from just basic premises, right? Basic principles. And of course, this kind of like again, you don't have to like there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but there's also going to be, like I was dating one woman from, like one African American woman from Texas, and she was like, um, she was telling me that her aunt would tell her, there's no such thing as a woman being poor and having a pussy. You know what I mean? And because of this, she like was conditioned to just ask for small change, or bus fare, after after sex. It was kind of like, what, bus fare? Like I was like, okay, whatever. And of course, I stopped buying her food, but it was like I just put the food money I was going to spend on whatever. But it's like it's that kind of um, it's that kind of social conditioning, and also the fact that a woman can like out earn a man like tremendously, right? These kind of things kind of shift the relationship and the basis of a relationship from what it would be, and it's kind of like it kind of is an economic problem, but at the same time, um, but yeah, and it's something that we don't really discuss too much.
Appreciate that, Oni. So I put up this so-called Tyler Durden. I guess he wants some attention. He was asking what kind of discussion is this, and he says, "I'll listen," because Bakari answered him and says, "A pro-black Pan-African channel." And here he is saying, "I'll listen just in case I think you guys are trying to start trouble in my country. I'll have to report you people." I'm like, dude, who are you? I'm sure you're not a subscriber. I'm sorry, who's about to say something?
I'm just laughing. Like, who is this
Yeah,
guy?
like who is you? Like, if Tyler Durden is being a problem in the chat, you guys with a wrench, just get him up out of here because it sounds like Tyler's not even black. So Tyler, speak up and address yourself. Um, in any event, yeah, only I saw that thing on Twitter the last couple of days where a white woman made $43 million. Well, she earned $43 million. Um, Mind you, it's not what you earn; it's what you keep, right? But she earned that much, and people were comparing it to like NBA players and stuff. She's making more than like, I know only one know who this is, but like Jason Tatum and them guys a year and stuff like that, off of selling sex, which is kind of an interesting thing, and that's mostly you could bet money that's mostly white men buying that shit. That's very interesting how things are. But is there any other last thoughts on this prompt here?
Yeah,
Chief,
I
if you
can
don't
say
speak.
about that. I just want to say about
Uh,
that. I remember I heard about Nicki Minaj like a long time ago, maybe like a decade ago. But before that, she was just a street rapper, you know. But the first time I hear about her is that, yo, look at this woman's body, you know. So yeah, I think a lot of like sex sells is a big motto in America, and like I feel like sex sells. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's not present in Africa, but um, it's not as much. Oh, you could be wealthy selling sex in Africa. Like I don't really get that vibe. But in America, like yeah, if you want to be a successful woman, well, in an entertainment industry, selling sex is one thing, and then these women stand up and they speak to a wider audience that's like, yo, sell your pussy. And like I said, this woman was from Texas, and her aunt was like, you gotta be like, that pussy's your purse, pretty much. Like, you gotta be making money from that. So yeah, I think, especially like like considering like Nicki Minaj's, because I like she was like legit like just a lyricist, I guess, I don't know, and then now, but like the first time I heard about her was not like based off of her skills at rap, but more so like her body. And the same with Megan the Stallion. The only reason why she ever came across my TL was because people were like, "Yo, look, how does her knees do that? Oh my gosh, her knees!" So I think we kind of downplay just how much these economic forces are pushing us towards a culture that's really not, um, that good for men and women, like for relationships. That's all.
Appreciate that, Oni. Um, if there's no last thoughts, let's go to
Even
shoot the
real
breeze.
quick for that, the woman you were talking about who made all that money, um, yes, she was a white woman, but also too, she marketed herself. Oh, I'm 18. I'm still a virgin. Like, there was something she also marketed, not just her being a white woman, but a young white woman who was barely 18, who had never been touched, right? So not only is it just sex sales, but also pedophilia is big. Here, a lot of people look at this girl who looks like a teenager, and we can never ignore. America's a sick country. And she probably made a much of her money off of white men lusting after a barely legal child. So that's one part of it as well. It's a sick country we live in.
Absolutely. I saw a couple months ago there was a white woman. I didn't watch the interview, but it was on Twitter. But the headline basically intimated that she was able to make millions off of OnlyFans because she could pass for being 12. So yeah, absolutely. Uh, the country is a mess, and the problem with the country, it wouldn't be a it wouldn't be a problem for me so much if it stayed within the country. The problem is that it gets exported, and a lot of our people start picking up on it here in this America and outside of it, like in the Caribbean and stuff. There's people who get influenced by this stuff, you know. D Web in the chat says, I think a lot of that OnlyFans thing is propaganda. Wouldn't be any females in the traditional porn industry if that was the case. Degenerate recruiting tools. Most quote unquote content creators make less than $100. I can see that too. Um, Jose says internet also blurs. No class separation, no intellect separation, no age separation. That's a good point too. Um, if you just went by the internet, everything is just kind of negative. That's a good point. Yeah, good thoughts from the chat. Chat, please keep the comments flowing because we're short staffed tonight. So keep the comments flowing. You guys will be the honorary panelists tonight, as you always are anyway. Should we start with number 3?